But also, here you got a lot of flats, that's your treads, made out of flats and the grading. And once they stop the rusting process inside, you can't get to it. Unless you tear everything apart, you can't stop rust. And then when you fill it with silicone, what's the encapsulation process do that you guys love on a project that's been refurbished? Has all nooks and crannies, and you after cleaning it properly, priming it properly, and then injecting it with silicone and gooping silicone all over it. Why do you guys like that?
Well, if you stop the oxygen, you stop.
Yeah, you stop, rust can't grow where silicone lives. So that's one of the main reasons we recommend encapsulation after any and all repairs for 50 years, because then what truly does the owner have to do on that farscape the rest of his life, or the rest of the building's life? Just keep it painted. He can let that whole thing rust. Can the water get back into that joint that you sealed with 50-year silicone? It's very difficult.
You're saying you know the silicone you can put on metal to metal, bond to the metal will last for 50 years?
And then the paint
Well,
will stick to it too?
Very good question. There's two types of silicone that they sell. Again, good old, my favorite store to buy things is at Home Depot. They do sell a 50-year silicone. Silicone comes in various colors. We like black because when you seal everything, after you've done your priming and cleaning of the rust and you're about to join the two members, you inject silicone in there, then you squish, and then you just run your finger. So there's your bond. Short of that is a rubber roof membrane that you basically cut little strips of rubber roof, and you make this beautiful. That's even better. Not many people do that. We've been doing that, but it's just so But once you've gooped it all up with silicone, you've got the new bolts. That's a sealed connection. Now, every now and then you don't have the right color. It's a beige something or other. Well, we have to use 35-year paintable latex silicone. And what that is basically after the thing is sealed, we latex silicone with 35 years because we can't open it up or whatever the situation may be on that particular connection. And then it's paintable. So you use paintable silicone latex if you're going to be painting after the fact, but otherwise you wait till the end of the job and it's a black farscape, which 90% of all the farscapes are black, and then you use black silicone to basically seal every joint. Every minor joint is sealed with silicone. And you get goopy with it, just all over the place. In some cases we use tar. We get your standard tar, and all the feet in the ground, we tar anywhere from 6 to 12 inches above grade. And that's just with a glove, we just goop roofing tar on the feet so that when the snow accumulates on top of something. A lot of times we use tar at the bottom, which is before it gets to the building. And we tar the back end of a piece of steel. And we make a big dam there so that the water coming down is driven away because there's tar there. So in some cases we use tar at the feet to keep the steel that must be sitting in cement or sitting in dirt or near dirt or something. We use tar as the goopy, you can be sloppy with farscapes. They're not very pretty. Get as goopy as you want. And silicone and tar is one of our great things. And a lot of times when into the wall, they have certain cement epoxies that you use in silicones for cement, specific to marry metal to cement. And we've also worked with creating what's called a barrier, like either a metal tin barrier or a rubber barrier. After you put in your cement repacking, you just notch whatever, and you just glue a 4x4 or an 8x8 or a 6x6 rubber patch on so that the water doesn't penetrate. This is above and beyond what the client is willing to pay for, but you get some clients, they want the best. And between the masonry companies and the metal companies, there's always and the engineers will tell you what's the best product out there. But Home Depot does sell a 50-year silicone of different colors, and hopefully that matches your building. Otherwise, the way we do it, we buy the silicone and we say, you got to get a paint that matches this silicone, or we use 35-year latex silicone that's paintable after the fact. Tread problems, as you can see. Two types of treads built today in the United States. With an angled clip, guess how much snow and accumulation and crap that it gets. So these were badly designed since they came out. Today's treads that are built, they're built with that 2.5-inch plate. The grading is welded to it directly. And so now you only got a 1/4 inch for snow to accumulate. So if you buy any pre-manufactured treads today, galvanized, it's a plate on the outside, it's no longer a shelf build. Okay? So whenever you're building new treads, we highly recommend you make people fabricate it this way. You weld it onto 2.5-inch, 1/4 inch because some of the grading companies, believe it or not, they don't weld all the bars going across, and it still meets the load test. We make sure that all of them get welded. Otherwise, this is what you get. You get a shelf that accumulates snow, pigeon droppings, leaves. This is a school, elementary school. This is how the kids get up. Ball peen hammer test, anyone? Ball peen hammer test? Ladders. We got all kinds of ladders out there, guys. Some of them legal, some of them illegal. These are the sliding ladders, similar to what goes into your attic. Legal. You can make, once you release them, they're on a spool, they got a retarder, and they have a slight angle, go all the way down to the ground. It's like a ladder stair. Will that answer some of your questions? Great. So will this one. This is a legal, it's a manufactured item that's called an accordion ladder. I saw a couple of these up in Seattle. You see tons of these in San Francisco and LA. It's called an accordion ladder. And they will, when you release them, see that thing up there? As soon as you release it, that thing starts whining like crazy. That's the retarder. And they're dropping 2 to 3 feet per second. Rigid, and it creates a ladder system. And you get these things to do 12 feet. They do 25 feet. So on all your fire escape cantilever systems that, you've eliminated the cantilevers like everybody was screaming because everybody was breaking into the buildings, and now everybody's jumping 12 feet to the ground. Fold-out ladders or accordion ladders will now be the answer, because they have an incomplete system. So engineers, as you inspect fire escapes that have no cantilevers and people are waiting 12 feet off the ground, you can only pack so many people on a little platform there before the firemen arrive with a ladder. It's an incomplete system, and you gotta make the fire department aware that the fire escape is incomplete. It needs a ladder to the ground if a cantilever can't go be put back on it. And the folding ladders, well, this is a permanent ladder, showing you various ladder systems that there's out there. You can have a ladder that's on weights. So a lot of times you can create a very simple weighted ladder system. It's mounted against the wall, mounted to the fire escape. As soon as you release it, guess what it does? It drops 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground and stays down. So all your cantilever problems have just been answered. Now, as soon as you put a ladder, who can self-evacuate? As soon as you get there, who can climb up this thing right away without waiting for the truck or getting something off their truck? All the able-bodied firemen, right? So you basically answered, because your answer from 10, 20 years ago that you guys allowed these people to remove cantilevers because people were breaking into the buildings, there's a liability issue that's lying, because as soon as somebody gets hurt on one of those, the last guy that certified the fire escape is going to get dragged into court, and then the guy that allowed it to be acceptable that way is going to get dragged into court because somebody had to jump 12 feet and do what? Land on their head. They couldn't land on their feet, no, they had to land on their head. And did they die or they survive? They survived. What's worse? Somebody dead or somebody alive?
Maimed.
Maimed. Roof ladders. And then you got the whole situation, what is the security point here? And are we going to start enforcing the loop around them? I highly recommend that you start throwing in your language that the fire escape to not exceed OSHA requirement. I think you can pull in OSHA on this one. Anything over 25 feet needs a loop.
Well, that's a big loop.
No, it's a round loop.
Well, yeah, but it'd be,
Right.
you'd have to have pretty good size for a
Yeah, 3 foot. There's guys with their suits and
and
their stuff.
Yeah, the standard OSHA one is way too tight for us when we're in full turnouts and SCBA
Yeah.
carrying equipment.
Well,
So it
buildings-
would actually have to be outside the normal OSHA requirements so that
Yeah.
we'd actually have a big enough hole to climb.
I'm just telling you that you don't have to wait for this to
the
be
ladder
a
too
law.
than the stairs, because
You
you
can
got more
actually
room.
use as an administrative rule addition and or a local ordinance in your city saying that all my ladders have to be retrofitted in the next 5 years, just like the load testing. You just, you give it time, but every ladder should have some sort of system. And or, I don't know if this is allowed, but those climbing, tie-off ropes or something, I don't know.
Harness.
Safety harness.
But there's this climber that you can basically,
What, a belay?
yeah, well, it's the rope that has that locking thing.
The belay.
Where we just, it's called belay? Yeah. then maybe one of those getting permanently installed on a cable system that's sit there, so you can just get into it right away as a climber. So your guys who are gonna get on the ladder, they tie off and they start climbing, and the thing just follows them all the way up. This is a suggestion. We got these other ladders that every now and then see. Have you guys ever seen these flop out ladders where somebody took an existing ladder, cut it in half, and folded half of it back into itself? Is it single action requiring no special knowledge, or you gotta learn how to let go of it so much? If it doesn't have a locking mechanism, and a good wind comes along, what happens to it? If it swings out, then there's a dog, a child, or a fireman down below. What happens when this thing looping comes down and conks you on the head? It'll kill somebody? If it can kill you, it's illegal. So these, you can usually jump 7 to 9 feet from the ground, so the last run could be 7 to 9 feet off the ground. Okay, and you can jump down to the ground. Or you can have a sliding ladder with weights, as long as it's not a guillotine, or you can have a permanently mounted ladder, or you can have a fold-out ladder. Does everybody truly understand what a fold-out ladder is, right? The kind that fold it themselves? Okay, they're built, they're custom built, there's nobody making those. The only one that custom makes is Jami Products. They're a Belgian corporation that has, representation here, but I think they've gone out of business here or whatever, but they're very expensive. They're an all aluminum fold-out ladder. Very expensive. But any ironwork shop can build a fold-out ladder. Just 2 pivots, 2 channels with a bar, pivoted. This one is permanently mounted and fixed to the ground, and the other one folds into it. And you have some sort of latch mechanism on top that just holds it from half the ladder flopping out. It's called a flop-out ladder. It'll answer a lot of your situations with cantilevers that are everybody's stopping 12 feet off the ground. That's what it looks like when it flops out. See? So it's illegal. Somebody did this to stop break-ins. So a lot of these break-in answers are illegal. All right. Let's start looking at the what you can do. Remember we talked about building permits? Any building permit pulled in the city, what are you going to ask for at the end? Certificate before you close the permit. Smoke detector sign-offs, what do you ask for? Just add it to the list. Start in the downtown. Right after this class, I believe it's from 12 to 1. 12 to 1 is a lunch here. Then at 1 o'clock till 4, for those who can make it, we're going to be downtown. And we're going to do what we've done with Pete and John. We just walk around, start looking up, and you apply what you just learned in this class, and we videotape it so that you can use it for future classes to learn, and that is this acceptable? Well, they're going to start walking on fire escapes that have been certified, they're going to walk on fire escapes that have not been certified, and what are they going to do? They're just going to use common sense knowledge that you can see right from the ground. I don't care if the building's 1 story or 10 stories, they're going to be able to assess the whole entire structure from 1 floor. Because what they did to the first floor is what they didn't do to all the other floors. So if there's no change of hardware on the first floor, do you care about what the 7th floor looks like? So you'll never get on these fire escapes. You will be examining fire escapes as inspectors. You stick your head out the window. If it's painted, that's half the code. It must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. And then you start looking for hardware. What kind of hardware are you looking for? Hex head bolts, right? If you see nothing but rivets and squares, what do you say? Well, this thing is old. You must have had it load tested. Can I see your load test documents? They're like, what? Yeah. In order for you to keep these squares and these rivets, you've had this thing load tested. Do you have that document? No. Oh, so you have a 50 to 75-year-old structure, no load test of any kind, and you want me to go out on it? It's all original hardware. It's 50 to 75 years old. It needs a load test. By the way, how old is your building? Oh, it's already old. It's 100 years old. Oh, you need to load test it immediately. How old is your building? Oh, it's 50 years old. Oh, you actually might get a 5-year reprieve. We still need to do the confidence test. We still need to do all these things, but you may not be forced into your load test for another 5 years, but that's up to the fire marshal. That's not up to us. But we need to put that as a disclaimer because we can literally write the certification to you without any disclaimers, but until the load test is done, we can't disclaim the material part of this, correct? But if we refurbish and or replace any of these components, we can go that way. This is a document we sent. We'd be more than happy to share it with any of the engineers and everybody. We basically now, because of what happened in Chicago, we have a letter that says, hi, AJ, you wrote a violation. And we want to know whether you want us to do an initial test to be an opinion-only test, and we're going to have a million disclaimers. Or do you want a level 2 calculated load test, where we're gonna go looking for some of these hidden things, and there's gonna be engineer oversight during the refurbishment in lieu of a load test? Or do you want a level 3, or do you want nothing? Or do you want the level, you want to go all the way to a load test? So engineers, they write a violation, send it back to them saying, you want an opinion test? Calculated load test, which is you're gonna eliminate all the invisibles. Or do you want a load test? And then quote your client appropriately. We want $500 to go do a visual opinion pass-fail test. We want $1,500 to do an oversight review, blah, blah, blah. And we want $5,000 to do a load test on this 3-story building. The owner's got everything they need, right? From your level 1 inspection or your level 2 inspection, you're gonna have a refurbishment criteria. Well, you better share that with them. Say, hey, this is what we recommend that needs to be done, because you're gonna make the inspector aware, because he wants one of two things. He wants a load test, or give you some other form of certification guarantee of some kind. So the owner is out of the mix. The owner's not gonna be influencing this in any way, because they gotta remove the violation. And you're asking the city now in a letter that says, tell me what will remove this violation. You want an opinion test? We'll give you an opinion test, but we got 8 pages worth of disclaimers that we add to it. Otherwise, if you want this to be a refurbishment on this 50 to 75 year, then that's called a level 2 calculated load test in lieu of, and inclusive in that is going to be some of the criteria. You may even rewrite, you may do some calculations of what was built 75 years ago just to verify the 100 pounds per square foot. They get paid for this stuff, Engineers, they love the level 2. They get to draw, they get to measure, they get to drink coffee on the fire escape. There's all kinds of nice things that engineers get to do. Load test. This is a 10-story in California. And we're load testing it based on the weight on the bottom, pulling cables through, the tie-off cables, securing the fire escape so that we load test it. 3,000 pounds per floor. We load test it with 40% of the weight, check for deflection, and then the remaining 20 minutes we put in the full load test. You know what a pass looks like? You know what a fail looks like?
Yeah.
It's catastrophic. So we try to avoid it as much as possible. Very costly, waste a whole day. Sorry about the noise, we're pulling the back of the truck. That truck weighed 8,000 pounds. We only needed to have 3,000 pounds, and we use what's the name of that? Excuse me? We have a digital scale. What's the name of that, the unit that?
Brain scale?
Load cell?
It's a load cell. You know what a pass looks like? You know what a fail looks like? Now, how often you want to be underneath that truck? There's all kinds of things you're supposed to do. I mean, it's a million things. Load testing is an animal all by itself.
Yeah, but.
You know who load tested? Is it the engineers that load test it? Or they oversee it? They oversee the load test. Who load tests it? Some contractor. Who's a contractor? Is it a load? Is it a testing company that load tests, or are you going to find Joe Welding and Billy Bob Ironworks performing the test for some of these engineers?
It depends. If the guys know what they're doing, what's wrong with
Oh, everybody claims they know what they're doing, they need money. Everybody knows what they're doing, but who takes all the risk is really the engineers. So just so you know, load testing is not a pretty thing. I've been at this business, in my dad's business, since he hijacked me when I was 10 years old. I'm 50 right now, I've been doing this for 40 years. You know how many load tests I've done in my entire life? You're looking at it. And you know why he was doing the load test? He wasn't required by the city, he wasn't required, but there was condos on that 10-story. This is an LA inspection. He wanted a load test. I said, but dude, it's gonna cost so much money. He goes, I don't care, I got tons of money, I want a load test. I said, fine, we need the footage. But in our lifetime, we've been doing the refurbishment. In lieu of a load test, we've been doing the refurbishment and the verification process. Just recently now, we're starting to get into the elimination of everything, and that is just the connections into the wall and anything welded. We just throw a bolt through it, and we duplicate the connection into the wall if it's unverifiable. And in some cases, it's verifiable. Sorry. Let me go back up on, right? This is that situation, guys, that if somebody's load testing, I'm telling you, there's all these hidden connections out there that you can't see, and if you load test them, things are gonna happen because a lot of times you don't get the dragon's tears coming out because it's falling in between the cavity. You know, it's not creating a bridge and giving you the visual that you're looking for.
Okay, I have a quick question here, and I'm getting confused because you're saying that you'll do a verbal, or you'll do an inspection and give a verbal and certify that it's safe, but then you're turning around and saying the dangers of a live load test is you've got areas that you can't see that might fail. Isn't that the whole purpose of the load test? Shouldn't it be load tested?
Again, we're getting into you either verify or nullify. So I can load test.
But you're not verifying just by putting a bolt in something and saying, okay, it's good now, that connection's been verified. That's not verifying the down.
They say it is.
Structure.
I say it is.
They're not gonna put their stamp on it if you test the whole, if you don't test that whole stairway and you just replace some bolts.
Wait a minute,
I guarantee
you
it.
can't say he won't. do it.
Well, and maybe he might, he put his.
I'm telling you they will. You know, when you basically, they want a load test and or a certification that comes from a professional that's gonna answer their question. Their question is, I have any connection, and I take out the bolts and I put in new bolts, they feel a lot more comfortable certifying it. I'm not saying they're load testing it, they're certifying it. So in lieu of a load test, the city wants some sort of certification that's as close to a guarantee without using the word guarantee as possible.
I know, that's why I'm saying, why not just eliminate that whole gray area and
I
require
know
a
you
load
love it,
test?
but Mr. and Mrs. Joe homeowner who doesn't want to spend $83,000 load testing their fire escape will disagree with you. And if the city is kind enough to give them some other refurbishment, but in the meantime, we're still kicking in the load test to say, hey, every fire escape should be load tested at least once in its lifetime, depending on its current age, and then every 25 years it should be load tested. So we're not saying never load test. We're saying that I think with a refurbishment, there's a path and a time frame that engineers are going to be comfortable with that says, hey, we've done everything possible to this fire escape other than load testing. And in some cases, like they mentioned, it's cheaper to load test it than it's going to be to refurbish a fire escape. But all these answers need to be made. What we don't want is people load testing the fire escape as is without taking advantage of unknown. So before I load tested this fire escape in LA, I had to drill all these holes, and this is what it looks like. See? I had to go and verify. This takes a ton of time. And I'm sitting there going, you know, instead of doing this, if I take that same 3/4 hole and I put it 5 inches out there, why am I destroying this original connection? Right? If the epoxy hole will take 3 inches or 5 inches out there and I make a new mechanical connection back to the fire escape, I've individually duplicated every connection. Will you sign it off as an engineer? If I've duplicated every connection, made it the primary and the old 50 to 75-year-old connection into the wall, which I'm not going to verify, I'm not going to open it up, I'm not going to spend any money on it. It visually looks good to me. Do you care about it anymore if I've duplicated the connection? We're already at 200% if the old looks good, but even if we're at 150%, all you need is 100%, I don't need 150.
That assumes the underlying wall is a solid shape.
Right, then that's that whole envelope issue that I'm talking about. I'm here to answer one question, but I feel that every building that is 50 years to 75 to 100 years old should have an envelope study done to it. That's for you guys. That's not even a farscape guy anymore. That's whole, now it's every 25 years there's an envelope study that includes the fire escape. The fire escape is not the main focus here. The whole drilling of the building and checking the masonry and checking for pores, you know, all those things, that's a whole other animal.
Well, I understand that, you know, if you basically make all the existing connections redundant by making new connections, yeah, you could build.
That's all they're asking for.
But I don't understand how that could possibly be cheaper than a load test.
No, I'm not saying in some cases a load test may be cheaper than, because you're only going to load test a fire escape that's in good to excellent condition, correct? Or you're going to load test a fire escape that has expansion in the rust, rust expansion, rust jacking, ice jacking. You're going to load test a fire escape in the as-is condition?
City code also load test.
As is. With bad treads and bad supports and rust.
Even
No.
after it's been refurbished.
You fix it.
No, I'm talking about, forget a refurbishment. You walk up there and, to me, the load.
No.
Of course, so then it has to pass a confidence test. So no matter what, you're not going to load test a fire escape until it passes a minimum confidence test. So let's take a perfect scenario. I go to a fire escape and it is pristine. The owner has been painting it religiously. It's 75 years old. It's got original rivets and square head bolts everywhere, but there's no evidence of any ice jacking or any rust jacking anywhere. Right? You're going to load test it as is, or do you want to go one step further and check the connections into the wall?
No, load test it.
You're going to load test it as is, even though I've told you that in the United States, there's evidence that some of these load tests, some of these things are not visible. You should go the extra step prior to the load test and just verify that through this process. Or you're gonna go through, an expensive, let's do a sampling of this building of some of the bricks, and let's just blow them out just to verify that there's no water back there. I think you're taking a big risk because 97% of the farscape, you say, is ready for load test. But the 3% that's hidden, and that is gonna be tying into the cement, should be verified, minimally sampled prior to the load test for your protection, because I know what a pass looks like. You know what a fail looks like?
Well, we strap it 2 to 1 above.
Oh, I know, but again, you know what the fail looks like?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that there should be, for a few extra dollars, they should be verifying even a sampling of the wall to verify some of these unknowns, and this is one of the ways. The other way is to have a mason guy come in and blow out a couple of samples in the wall for your protection. And the only one left on this, which makes up 3% of the entire farscape, I got some welded connections. How are you gonna nullify those before you load test?
Well,
That's the purpose of the test, though.
Yeah,
Well, I think that's what his confusion is he's thinking that replacing the welds with bolts and putting the wall.
I'm reinforcing the welds, yeah.
The question is that replacing the load test? And now you're saying it's not, you're just adding in safeguards before you go into do the load test.
For you guys only, yes. For me, after you pass a pristine farscape that has 50 to 75-year-old rivets and square head bolts, and it's got some unknowns. The unknown is a weld and unknown other than using a X-ray. Can you X-ray all the welds on a farscape economically?
No.
Okay, so as soon as I blow a bolt in that, can I keep that weld, which looks very good to me? Can I keep that weld and my bolt becomes the backup? It's sort of reinforcing the bolt and nullifying that concern of mine? As soon as you blow a bolt through any welded connection, have you nullified it? Your concerns? Prior to a load test. Then every connection into the building, you've done this prior to a load test. And this is part of the load test company's requirement. They go in and do a sampling because you're checking to see if there's been any water damage in 50 to 75 years that's working its way behind the veneer that is not blowing itself out as a dragon's tooth. The rusty tears. So now you've gone through that, you've done a sampling of 6 at various floors, and it looks good. Can you load test it? Yeah, now load test it. Load test it without doing some preliminary work to verify some of these connections to see if there's any water damage. I'm telling you, I've got enough evidence out there that everybody's been visually opinion, and that's one thing you should not cross. That line should never be crossed. Because 97% of the farscape, you can render an opinion that it's ready for load test. If it's in good to excellent condition, it's 75 years old, the original rivets, original square head bolts, and they're all pristine, they're all tight, because the guy's been painting it religiously every 3 years. You know what I'm saying? So, I agree, in some cases, a load test is going to be the cheapest. But sometimes the load test is 10 grand, and the owner can spend 10 grand on the building. 10 grand on a load test, is any of it applied to paint or bolts? No, you get it all. I mean, the load testing company takes it all, puts it in their pocket, and they walk out. They don't do anything to the farscape with that 10 grand. In some rare cases, a load test of 10 grand versus a repair of 10 grand, which is a certification for 10 grand, which one is better for the client? Well, the load test is 10, I get nothing for it. And if you refurbish it for 10 grand, I get a refurbished farscape, which is good for how long now?
Get the work done.
Get the work done.
Well,
Eliminate these bolts that every 5 years, which you guys are forcing, is
but
going to cost.
you're missing some important factors here that before you even do a load test, you have to swap out all the fasteners. So right there, the customer's already getting all their brand new
No, I'm not
fasteners
saying
switched
that.
out.
These guys are gonna go in there, and they're gonna, if a rivet and a square head bolt is in good to excellent condition, and that's easily verifiable visually, isn't it?
You still have to swap out the fasteners so that you
How can you verify something that's buried?
Yeah.
No, it's a simple connector, right?
Here's a good example. See, what we do is we have the engineer walk the fire escape, and I'll come along and check. You can't see that. You might put another bolt in next to it, or you might look by that and take a visual, oh, everything looks good, but you can't see that.
Yes, you can. I'll see that, because the rust that it takes to eat that bolt is shown in expansion, in rust
No, it
jacking.
wasn't. No, it
This was
wasn't.
from rust jacking.
That,
No,
no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
That's from rusting.
Right, in between a joint, but I have 2 members that did this.
No, it wasn't. That was inside, that was part of a guard railing for going up the stairs for a pipe. You couldn't even see it. The bolt, it was a through bolted connection, and you couldn't even see it.
Same with the rivet.
Same with the rivets. Yeah.
You can't see inside, if you've got 2 pieces of steel that are riveted together, how can you see
where that steel is, you can't.
Well, that's what he's saying, if it's in good excellent condition, he's gonna load test it, that's his verification, he's gonna
So
load
you're
test it.
saying the outside condition is good to excellent, you have no idea what the inside is?
But they're load testing it anyway, that's you guys are doing that now anyway, I'm talking about.
No, we're not. That's where you're wrong.
You changing out all the bolts?
Yes.
All right, so then why are they saying that they are load testing fire escapes that have rivets and supports that are in good excellent condition? I'm just showing you what's happening out there, that and just so we don't get into my minutia over here, yes, there's gonna be some weird cases, but I'm trying to protect several people here. The inspectors, who are relying on you to do the right thing, the engineers, who are basically writing out these reports that basically trying to protect their ass so they don't get their house taken away from them, and the vendors who need some guidance on what needs to be done. And the answer is, based on this, is that if you have a fire escape that's in good to excellent condition, and they've, and I mean all the connections, the supports, the treads, the rails, everything looks visually good to you, and you've gone one step further, you've done some of these test borings to basically verify that there's no water in the back, and you've also gone and nullified any welded connection by putting in a bolt through it, so that in case there's any rust growing out that only an x-ray would identify for you, the next step is not refurbishing the fire escape, you're gonna load test it. And as soon as you load test it, we're done. Right, so that's the steps, right? Otherwise, there's a refurbishment process in lieu of a load test.
The problem that you often run into here, though, is that the building owner is gonna bulk pad prescriptively, spending a lot of money swapping out all the fasteners for no apparent visual reason. So you end up with this resistance, where the owner says, well, just test it. Just get it over with, maybe I get lucky, I'll roll the dice. And it's
On a case-by-case basis, it's your call.
harder to justify, we want to duplicate every connection on this fire escape, just so we feel that. The owner's gonna say, no, I'm not gonna spend $5,000, just test it. So that's the.
But then when your owner says that, and you get a contract that says, we're gonna do this, and the risk is that when you load test it, it may fail, and you'll have fire escape on the
And
ground.
that is on every.
Then you'll have to go back to the building department, and you'll have to get permission to put a fire escape back on, and the building department may or may not say, you don't get a fire escape, because fire escapes aren't allowed, now you gotta find out how to build a stair on your building. I mean, that all has to be shared with the owner, I
Yeah.
would hope, and then they have to decide, are they rolling the dice or not?
And the document that your inspection criteria is not between you and the owner, it's between you and Stu. You satisfy his requirement of what he wants. Does he want a pass-fail, level 1? Does he want a load test, calculated load test, which is, a refurbishment? Or does he want a load test? And in order to get to a load test, you have to satisfy the city official that the fire escape is ready for a load test. So you can actually tell the client, I'm not gonna load test this thing, the risk is too high, and there's known issues here that have failed in the past that I'm not gonna allow a load test. And you don't share that with the owner, you share that with the inspector, and and a lot of times, you'll get kicked out of the box. They're gonna try to find somebody that will do it the way he wants. But if you've already shared the information with your inspector that this guy's gonna try to backdoor the situation, there's nothing you can do when an owner doesn't like what you brought to him, you know what I'm saying? Sorry, you engineers, you guys find all kinds of crazy problems everywhere, so you guys are just out to get us anyway. That's what an owner thinks. You just want to run the meter. But if you've done your criteria with the inspector, that's why when you've done your inspection, yeah, you got to share the knowledge with your owner, but he's not part of the equation. It's the inspector. You go back and say, here's what I found. Here's what needs to get done. Here's what needs to be done in order to get ready for a load test. He's got this much work that needs to be done. And then you get kicked off the job. Guess who doesn't get kicked off the job? The one that wrote the violation. And all of a sudden he brings in Joe, engineer, drive-by, fly-by guy, saying, hey, the fire escape is fine, I'm ready to sign off on it. Well, if they know their thing, they're like, what's your inspection criteria? Have you seen the last inspection that was done by this other firm? See, they're the ones that have to now step up and not accept everything that comes in as God's word. They're gonna they've been given a criteria letter. That's why we give them a criteria letter. So, there's a great poll. I can't answer every question, but what my job is to make sure that you're a vendor. Believe it or not, vendors rely too much on you guys, and you guys rely a lot on vendors thinking they're gonna pick up stuff. We're making this so that you are gonna be held liable. You are being held liable. They are being held liable. So as soon as everybody can say, hey, I gotta do my job correctly, that's why a confidence test is for you. But a repair guidelines that he gets is what he has to follow. And here's the repair guidelines, ready? every connection that has rust on the inside must be cleaned of all rust. Whether identified or not on my report. How's that sound, guys? Because you're there for an hour. You know what I'm saying? You're there for an hour. Guess who's there for a week? And guess who's supposed to do their own walkthrough and identify anything visible or invisible? See, this is what we're looking on the inside. So this is another masonry with a plate on the inside, guys. So only 5 to 10 of the buildings in the United States have an inside plate. A lot of them just cemented right into the 18 to 12 inches. I'm sorry, 8 to 12 inches deep. So here's your load test. You want to get a copy of it, just go up to Tacoma.com or Tacoma.gov, go to their fire prevention, and this is there. So here's an industry standard document that they copy from us. A lot of these questions are questions they just copy from us. And again, the one that's better is go to Seattle.gov, go to fire prevention, under confidence testing, they have testing documents there for sprinklers, smokes, and fire escape confidence. And they copied our confidence test. They did a better job, I think, than Tacoma. The reason I featured Tacoma here is because Seattle doesn't do the 1 year walkthrough. What's everybody think about the 1 year walkthrough that's mandatory for the owners?
I think that's a good idea.
Carry any liability? It's just a walkthrough, right?
Yeah, it's just a walkthrough.
Your firemen are walking through anyway on some other check, whether batteries or exit signs or whatever, and they have to hand you this thing and sign it. So now you're getting these visual yearly walkthroughs from the owner and all their agents, the management companies, whoever wants to do it. Okay? This is what Boston asks. One sheet of paper. And by the way, these are add-ons. I added these in myself. And I added this in, which they haven't adopted, but right now the entire state of Massachusetts is going through a rewrite. And all I needed to sign on this was, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, the fire escape is in conformity with the Fire Escape Code 1028.3. That's all I need to sign. To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief. Can I get away from any liability on that? Can I get sued on opinions? To the best of my information, knowledge, and belief. Right? This is an opinion test. No, they'll try, but can you sue anybody on an opinion? Opinions, that's why, to the best of my information, knowledge, and belief, I think this is good. Well, what day was that? That was a Thursday. Well, this thing fell, a year and a half later. Well, you didn't ask me the opinion a year and a half later. Had you asked me, maybe I would have had a different opinion. I don't know what happened. Did you have any earthquakes? Any trees? Any rust? Any pigeon poo that fell on this thing? Because the opinion I gave you was a year and a half ago. So what about a lot of these confidence tests and a lot of these certifications having a date on them? Because can anything happen between today and tomorrow on that fire escape that you just certified today? Earthquakes, fires, movements, solar blasts. I mean, there's many things that can. It's not a perfect science. Guys, here's a letter that we would send to a vendor. And the standard statement on every one of them is remove all rust from the internal connection. Any more before you bolt it? And it says in here, if you're going to weld it, it needs a fire watch. And it needs to have the area, if it's, anybody know about the EPA renovator's license requirement? Any fire escape older than 1978 is presumed to have lead. Everybody know that? In order for you to touch it, or touch any part of a building, if you're a contractor or a painter, unless I'm handed something by the owner who had a professional lead company come in and say that fire escape is no lead or low lead, I have to wear these white suits. It's not oxygen tanks and stuff like that. It's basically you have to collect the chips and there's a proper disposal method of dealing with lead. Can't weld, can't bring a flame to something that has lead. Unless you, not encapsulate, but in the word.
You can remove the paint, but you are allowed to weld if it's got lead in it, but you have to wear a special respirator that's going to collect it.
And I'll bring another point, which is very good you bring it up, but you know that the EPA law does not conform to the OSHA rule?
Yes.
So right now, if you are touching a fire escape and you're welding or doing anything that's EPA related, guidelines that are following, I'm actually breaking OSHA rules. So I'm actually against the law of the OSHA, because when EPA wrote this law, they didn't follow. Because what's supposed to happen is I'm supposed to have a full oxygen mask and all this other stuff, take draws and bloods and stuff like that if I touch. This is just related to fire escape. This is to any renovator, because the EPA is dealing with how you're going to get rid of this lead. The OSHA is dealing how the workers are supposed to be treated while they're dealing with this lead. So It's a conflict in the law that, tell anybody, otherwise we can't touch any of these fire escapes as we speak. Yes?
It's also overseen by the Department of Human Services.
Don't tell me that because,
They trump everybody.
uh-oh, uh-oh.
That's what I meant.
Listen, guys, we're getting to the point where all fire escapes need to be replaced. So start making components for fire escapes, because that, again, so it's a catch-22. There's so many, we're literally, getting tied up, and we can only use one hand to really get these fire escapes fixed. But again, there's three people here with a problem: inspectors, engineers, and vendors. Everybody's sort of caught in, what am I gonna do? So send the criteria. So whoever the engineer is sends the criteria to the vendors, who send the criteria to the inspector, because he has to agree to the criteria. And it's all standard industry, standard repair guidelines. What is it? You got a connection, you got to remove the rust. You got to clean the connection, prime the connection, and when you put it back, if at all possible, seal it with 50-year silicone. Why? So that the owner just has a paint problem the rest of his life. Every one of these, the treads, the supports, it's the same, it says the same thing. I do mention, the weight balance thing, I do mention, talk about the footing, I do talk about the fixed ladder. Whoever writes must have a criteria, and you write the criteria very broad. Remove 100% of all internal rust identified or not on my report. Putting the pressure on who? Vendor's supposed to do their walkthrough. Otherwise, you get these vendors that walk through and say, hey, it wasn't on the report. That's why you have a write-up that says the vendor will do all walkthroughs and assume 100% of all the violations, identified or not, on the engineer's report. Engineers do 3 to 5 visits on average. So when they're fixing the fire escape, there's an orientation meeting. When they're halfway through the job, the engineer's supposed to show up and verify that the work is being done correctly, and you're not supposed to paint any of the fire escape until the engineer signs off on various floors that a repair has been done, has been primed, it's been siliconed, and they keep working on the repairs. Then you can, as they start doing multiple floors, then they can release certain floors for painting after the engineer has signed off. So some visits need 3, 5, 10 visits. You know how much these guys get for their hot chocolate and their coffee breaks? They only, it's very expensive. No, I love it. But it does need the oversight, because you're the one signing off. What's happening is a lot of engineers start with a report, then they're mysteriously called back 8 months later. It's done. Fire escape's done. Can you come sign off on it? All black and painted. And what happens? What are you signing off on? Hidden defects? Connections and things that I didn't have time to fix. I put silicone in that connection and make it look like I repaired it, yet the rust is still there. That's why during the process, you never let anybody, during a calculated load test, refurbishment, you must visit the site and verify. And then in your write-ups to the vendors anyway, you're putting in there that if anything is hidden that I didn't see, but that was a workmanship default or a defect, you're covered anyway, because if they are hiding it, you're covered. Because it specifically told you what to do. Typical test, a lot of people must have. See the tag that's left? You must have photographs. Every report that's put out, you need violations. So in Seattle, it says right on the report, photos must accompany the report, because the inspectors need to see it. Here's what's wrong with it. Write-ups, again, fire escape repair procedures. A lot of these you can just basically pop in the city's name. You can generically take your name out of the middle. It's just industry standard guidelines on how to repair. I only pop this in here for one reason. Anybody ever seen a slidescape? Know of one in your area? This is a 12-story slidescape. See that area right there? 12 stories all the way down, and then you slide out a tube. So this is the doors on every floor. This is on the roof. And you open these up, that's the Elizabeth, New Jersey firefighter. And you open that up, and you're supposed to dive into this stupid thing.
Holy cow.
Put it on your ass and corkscrew all the way down. At the very bottom, there's this iron door with a paddle. And your feet come down, you smash into it, and it swings it open, and that's how you get out to the street. And it's an approved means of egress. This is a, Art Deco building, built in the 1900s. Slidescapes are in a lot of codes out there. You cannot build a slidescape, but you still need to maintain them. This is a slidescape. Dark.
Somebody been down that whole thing?
Well, great story. One of the fire guys that was there was saying that in the past, his grandfather used to own the used to maintain the building, and they used to heat it with coal. And there was a parochial school nearby, and one of the things in order for you to get some status in the school is you have to break into this building during normal business hours and go down the slide and prove that you went down the slide. So his grandfather used to throw coal dust down. So all these kids in their parochial clothes, you know, the white suits and the white things and whatever, and all these kids used to come down at the end all full of soot, and they're like, hey, you've been down my slide. You know, that's how they used to back the kids. They would put coal dust down the, that's called a slidescape. Okay? So tags, this is what the tags look like. White tags, yellow tags, and red tags. I sent the city some samples of what they look like that include the code. So ask Stu for a copy of what the tags can look like. Now, this doesn't even have to be a standard. You can just copy this example and just create a tagging system that starts tagging your fire escapes that you're inspecting, unless it's accepted. So if you do an ordinance or you do a local, you can have all fire escapes, just like elevators, tagged. Seattle is mandatory. Every fire escape has to have a tag, whether it passes or fails. You inspect it and it fails, put a tag. Red is for things with life safety issues. Yellow is it's got deficiencies. White is that it's passed what they call a confidence test.
The Oregon State Fire Code Committee that's working on the fire escape stuff is headed up by AJ, and it's the intent of including a sample tag of some sort, so you've got a reference point in an appendix in the fire code. So hopefully that'll be an interim amendment for the current code, and it will hopefully be brought into the 2012 as an appendix, so that information about the fire escape stuff will not only be in the code within the chapter, but in an appendix, you'll be able to find things like this.
And as you can see, 7 to 10 feet off the ground, the inspector can see when the last inspection was, because it tells you when the next inspection date is, who inspected it, phone numbers, license numbers, names of vendors and the inspectors, and the code, and everything that's referenced. There's a front and a rear to this, a lot of information. So no longer, hey, when's the last time you inspected it? It's clear when you do the walkthrough when the last time they had it inspected. So imagine over the next 3 to 5 years, every building gets a tag regardless whether it passes or fails. Doesn't matter. These guys look at it, they just throw a tag on it. It didn't pass, everything's a yellow, just starts going to yellow. Then you start getting rid of yellows and reds. Obviously you deal with all your reds first, then you get onto your yellows, and then you get everybody to white. It's going to take 5 years though. Classes, we've taught building inspectors, housing inspectors, fire marshals. We're ready to go into a lunch break right now. We're a little bit over, but this is actually the Seattle class that we taught. This is Lieutenant John Sargent? No, Sargent is new, Roger Sargent is the new guy. But again, this is Spaulding. Can you guys recognize anybody here? Yeah? This is the first time, so I don't know if you remember, the first time we ever came here, that we went out. These are actually the line guys, that we went out and we looked at some fire escapes. Now, what do you want to do with your line guys? What do you got, 200, 300, 400 guys? No, how many?
About 750 sworn personnel.
750? You need those guys as eyeballs when you do your pre-plans. You've got only 5 guys here that inspect fire escapes, but you've got 700 guys that can tell you where all these fire escapes are at during their pre-plans. And all they do is they walk down and they look at the fire escape. Their only thing that they have to look at is a rusty fire escape. They're not looking for structure, they're not looking for anything. They see a rusty fire escape and they tell their captain, right, of the battalion, who's doing the pre-plan that day, and then that guy puts it to who?
We actually have a referral process, and they crank it through the referral process and goes directly to the district inspector.
But we trained about 400 of them in 1 hour classes in Elizabeth, and we made them spotters. All they did was basically spot fire escapes. They were pre-planning this building, and right behind them was a rust bucket, and they finished their thing, and then they just make a note, hey, 12 Main Street, it's got a bad fire escape. They're done. Now it's you guys pick it up from there because you're getting all these referrals. So make these 700 guys work for you and find these very fire escapes that can hurt them. 750 pairs of eyeballs out there. Because this is where they end up, right?
Well, so do you have a 1 hour class?
Yeah, I do.
On tape?
Yeah, I do, from Elizabeth, yeah. So I can just give you that.
Right, we have a video.
Yeah, these are online. A lot of these things are online. Everything we try to do, we videotape like we're doing right now, and we try to put it up online. That's what Firescape Academy is all about, is where you guys are going to be able to go and just watch videos of other states or other cities that have done it, and at home or at night or on a situation like this, you can actually just go in, and we're at the end of the session, so you would just go in and we're going for lunch break now, so let me just show you what that would mean is, you go like this, if this was one of the classes. You go to Farscape Academy, you go to YouTube and you just type in Farscape Academy. Why it doesn't wanna- And so you'll be here at Farscape Academy, and let's pick an inspection video that I think you guys are gonna like. You wanna see horror, life safety issues? And you just go to videos, and then you just scroll down and you say, let's take a look at typical farescapes, and I'll show you one that's a horror story, and that'll be the end of our class. And again, I'll be here from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We're gonna be downtown, and
Actually,
we're gonna be looking at, I think we're gonna start 1 o'clock at the tower there, right? That way everybody can grab a,
We were gonna start at the tower out here, right?
yes.
Because of the lunch concerns and stuff, you wanna bump that to 1:30?
Yeah, 1:30 at the tower. We'll
Well,
start-
actually, let's meet back here, then we'll walk out to the tower.
Perfect. And I'll be around, so if anybody has any questions directly, you want to give me your cards for me to update you with some information. But here's a horror story.
Farscape Engineers Instructor Summary Video. Instructor Meneses here. We're on Brooklyn, New York. It's Farscape. Farscape is in very serious condition. It's in a state of collapse. The entire Farscape is very, very bad. And it's fallen. Haven't seen it repair. Our paint job is 45 to 50 years. We got rust growing everywhere. Everything is breaking. This is a great Farscape to learn what happens when you ignore a Farscape. That everything gets eaten. Look at all this. The bolts are still there. Bolts are missing. This Farscape, if you would step on it, or a fireman was to step on this thing, this thing will collapse and kill or hurt somebody. Missing treads. All original hardware. This Farscape needs 100% refurbishment and a full paint job. As well as, because this was an addition to the building that they put in here, it used to go down to the ground. So they need a catwalk all the way down here. There's a bakery now. They need a catwalk all the way down here, up and over and into this yard. Because right now you can't get down there any other way. So right now this Farscape needs to come down, but it needs a full refurbishment. 100% rebolting of every connection, all the connections.